Writing. The first punch never landed. The second never landed either. Because the moment 5 masked men rushed toward Billionaire CEO Cassian Vale in the middle of a crowded restaurant, a young waitress named Maribel Rowan dropped the tray in her hands, stepped between them, and did something nobody in that elegant dining room expected. She looked directly at the leader, studied his stance for less than a second, and calmly moved as if she already knew exactly how the attack would end. What happened next would leave the billionaire speechless and change the life of an ordinary waitress forever. Before we begin, if you believe kindness can give people a second chance, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to Heartline Stories. Sometimes the people we overlook are carrying the strength we desperately need. It was a bright Tuesday afternoon at the Grand Meridian, one of the most expensive restaurants in the city, where sunlight poured through enormous glass windows and turned the polished tables golden. Cassian Vale sat alone near the window, wearing a perfectly tailored navy suit, reviewing documents for a company merger while his security team waited discreetly outside. At 48, Cassian had built a technology empire from nothing, but success had never erased the loneliness he carried from his childhood. He had grown up watching his mother struggle to pay rent, and he had promised himself that one day nobody under his roof would ever have to fear hunger again. Yet money had also taught him something painful. People often saw his fortune before they saw the man. Maribel Rowan was 29 and worked the lunch shift at the restaurant. She was quiet, hard-working, and almost invisible to the wealthy customers who passed her every day. She wore the same simple uniform, tied her dark hair into a neat bun, and smiled even when her feet hurt from standing for hours. Nobody knew that before becoming a waitress, Maribel had spent years training in a completely different world. Her father had been a military instructor who taught her discipline, awareness, and defensive techniques after a dangerous incident had changed their family forever. She had promised him she would never use those skills unless someone's life depended on it. She had kept that promise for years. Then the 5 men entered. They looked like businessmen at first, but Maribel noticed details others missed. Their shoes were too heavy for office workers. Their jackets hung strangely around their waists. They did not look at the menu, the tables, or the food. They looked at Cassian. Maribel froze for half a heartbeat when the first man suddenly pulled a weapon. Chairs scraped across the floor. Guests screamed. A glass shattered. Cassian stood, but before he could move, the 5 men surrounded his table. The leader grabbed Cassian by the collar and demanded that he hand over a small encrypted drive. Cassian refused. The man struck him hard enough to send him against the table. Panic swept through the restaurant as people hid beneath tables and rushed toward the exits. But Maribel did not run. She stood near the kitchen doorway, watching. Her hands trembled, but her eyes were calm. She remembered her father's voice from years earlier. Never fight the strongest person first, understand the room, understand the exits, and make the danger fight itself. The first attacker moved toward Cassian again. Maribel suddenly stepped forward and threw a metal serving tray across the floor. It struck the attacker's ankle, making him lose balance. Before he could recover, she grabbed a chair and pushed it between him and Cassian. The second man charged her, expecting an easy target. Instead, Maribel sidestepped, used his momentum against him, and sent him crashing into an empty table. The room fell silent for one stunned second. The remaining 3 men turned toward her. Cassian stared at the waitress as though seeing her for the first time. Maribel noticed something on the leader's wrist, a distinctive scar shaped like a crescent. Her father had once told her about a private security unit that used the same symbol, a group known for taking illegal contracts. Suddenly, she understood. These men were not random criminals. Someone powerful had sent them. The leader lunged. Maribel moved with startling precision. She blocked his arm, twisted away, and forced him backward without trying to hurt him. Another attacker grabbed her from behind, but she dropped her weight, broke his grip, and pushed him into a wall. The fourth man raised his weapon, but Cassian grabbed a heavy chair and knocked his arm aside. The fifth attacker hesitated, realizing that their plan was collapsing. Then sirens echoed outside. Cassian's security team had finally reached the restaurant. The men tried to escape, but they were surrounded before they could reach the doors. Within minutes, the police arrived and took all 5 attackers into custody. The restaurant looked as though a storm had passed through it. Broken glasses covered the floor, overturned chairs blocked the tables, and frightened guests slowly emerged from their hiding places. Cassian approached Maribel. For once, the billionaire looked less like a powerful businessman and more like an ordinary man who had just survived something terrifying. He asked her where she had learned to fight like that. Maribel looked down and quietly explained that her father had trained her, but after his death, she had stopped believing those skills had any place in her new life. She had become a waitress because she needed steady work and because she wanted a quiet existence far away from danger. Cassian looked at the crowded restaurant, then at Maribel's worn shoes. He realized something that money had prevented him from understanding for years. The person who had saved his life was not someone from his security team, not a government agent, and not another billionaire. She was a woman earning enough to survive, someone most people in the room had probably never bothered to notice. A week later, Cassian discovered that the attack had been connected to a former business partner who wanted revenge after losing a major lawsuit. But Cassian did not stop there. He asked Maribel to join his company's security training division as a consultant, allowing her to teach awareness and emergency response to employees. She hesitated, afraid that accepting his offer would somehow make her indebted to him. Cassian simply told her that she had already given him something money could never buy, another chance to live. Months passed. Maribel eventually used her new income to open a small training center for women who wanted to learn practical self-defense and emergency skills. On the wall above her desk, she placed an old photograph of her father. Beside it was a simple handwritten note: "Strength is not about hurting others. Strength is knowing when someone needs you to stand." Cassian remained one of her biggest supporters, but their relationship was never about wealth or obligation. It was about respect. The billionaire learned to see people beyond their uniforms, and the waitress learned that the quiet life she had been searching for did not mean hiding the strength she carried inside. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, share it with someone who believes ordinary people can do extraordinary things, and subscribe to Heartline Stories. Your support helps us bring more stories of courage, kindness, and second chances to people who need them. And before we end, leave this special comment: real heroes don't always wear uniforms. Write it if you believe courage can come from the most unexpected person. Because sometimes the person standing closest to you is the person everyone else has learned to overlook. And sometimes, when the world suddenly falls apart, it is not the richest person in the room who saves the day. It is the one with enough courage to step forward when everyone else is afraid. End of Part 1, Complete Story.